Hey everyone, welcome to Watch It Painted. So I've just got off the blower with the army painter themselves and we're just talking about the next steps, and very excitingly they actually let me know that the production samples are on their way to my house. So in this video we're going to be looking at the production samples because these are basically ready to go now. We can move on. We can now look at the flow and the contrast and how well they actually work, the consistency between them, how they look, I guess, in the bottle, whether they come with a little rattle-tattle ball bearings, and see if you can mix them up that little bit quicker. I'm sure they will. Hopefully they will. We'll find out at some point in the near future. And another thing we'll finally address is some people had some complaints about the little tiny army soldiers that we painted, but do bear in mind, I painted like 200 of those things. That's a lot of money, time building fancy miniatures like Games Workshop style. But in this one, you know, we're only going to have a few production samples. So let's finally see what they look like on something decent. So I can build up and prime some of those that are ready to roll. And other than that, just time to sit back and wait for that delivery man. Mail's here. Guys, it has finally arrived. The postman, the delivery guy, has just been and dropped off the production samples of Army Painter's new speed paint range. Now, let's crack it open. Let's see what we get inside. Well, that was stuck a bit. This is it. It's nowhere near as big or as enormous, really, as it was before when we were getting sent 50 plus supplies and stuff to go and start developing these paints. But we have, fast counting, 10 new paints. And guys, these look production labels. Can we see? I'll probably show all of these in front of the camera anyway, but yeah, it looks like we've got 10 new paints, all sealed, all in that actual plastic form, vacuum form packaging, so it's very close to what we'll get when this comes out for real. Obviously there's no production actual packaging, retail packaging, but yeah, 10 paints. Labels all look right. They've got the names on now, which is a lot easier to tell what they are. They say if they're metallic, so we've got some metallics in here. They've put their balls in the paint again, so I've answered that question already. It looks like the sort of descriptive names on the labels. I believe Army Painters actually started printing the labels straight away as soon as they'd come up with the name, so they didn't think to add the descriptions in advance. That's part of the paint development team's effort to help people understand what these colours are more, so they'll probably come out in future paint. But yeah, in these ones we've got Algae Green, Tyrian Navy, Moody Mauve, Murder-Scene, Maize Yellow, Ruddy Fur, and Noble Skin, which was one of the original browns, which got a name change as part of the paint development team. We tried to push for more appealing, darker skin tone names. And then there's 3 metallics included in here as well, including gold, silver, and bronze. So we've got Talus Bronze, Hoplite Gold, and Broadsword Silver. I think that's it. There's not that much to unpack today, so let's go and start experimenting. Let's go and see. Oh, did I mention previously that they've fixed the reactivation issue, and we're going to have 2 hours. Hey, they've all fallen out. We're going to have 2 hours to work with the paint before it cures and completely dries and should no longer be able to be reactivated. So I'm going to test that out as well. But yeah, let's go put some paint on some miniatures. For this video, we're going to grab ourselves 10 Games Workshop miniatures, get some high quality miniatures so we can see hopefully some high quality results at the end. I'm also going to take Army Painter's matte white primer and apply 2 thin coats to this. I'm going to try and get a bright, smooth white prime on these miniatures and really showcase what these colours can achieve under the brightest circumstances we can get. There might be bright primers out there, but I found Army Painter's matte white to be pretty bright, to be honest, if you build it up, especially over a couple of thin coats. And then just like we did with Speedpaints 1.0, I'm just going to absolutely smash this paint all over these miniatures. So apologies, this is probably not how we should paint and use this paint. Got a wrecked brush, loads of paint on, hammer it on. I really just want to get this done quickly and we can have a look. Obviously, better painters, more refined painters can fine-tune their technique when we actually want to apply this paint for real. But let's just have a look at the colour, the flow. You can see as I'm applying the paint, hopefully, it's maybe a hard thing to see flow, but I can feel it's flowing nicely. It feels like speed paint. So I'll just do this for all 10 colours and then get a cup of tea. Well, that is all 10 production samples slapped on a miniature. Up to the quality of the miniature this time, guys, so do let us know if you appreciate that below. I definitely, you can see the difference, can't you? The highlights look better, the recesses look darker. That could be because these are finally, oh, yay, it's over, no more prototypes. These actually flow and feel like speed paints. They are a delight, a pleasure to paint. They're pretty much consistent, just they feel like speed paints, guys. If you use the original speed paints, these feel the same. They flow nicely, they're smooth, you put them on thick and fast, it works really, really well. They're all pretty much consistent. The metallics are slightly looser, slightly wetter, slightly thinner. They still go on thick, but the paint just has that viscosity. It's got a different feel to it as you're applying it. Works well. No, I've got no complaints about them. They're the first contrast / speed paint metallics out there with single coat. Very, very nice. So let's talk about some of the individual colors as we look at these, because each one it's worth talking about. It's worth talking about. These are production samples. They're freaking good. So we've got the metallics first. We've got that gold. I've got no complaints, guys. That is amazing. It goes on so fast. One coat. That is probably going to be how I paint gold from now on, even in just tiny places. Silver, again, they've changed it. It's not quite the same as the prototype. It's got better contrast. It looks great. The copper, it looks good, but it's a very light copper, isn't it? It's almost pink. So if you like the color, you like it. If not, then, you know, it's subjective, isn't it? Purple's a nice addition. This Tyrian blue goes on slightly thicker, a bit gloopier. I've fed that back to Army Painter. It might be adjusted by the time it comes, but it looks the same and it comes out. Oh, it's a fantastic color. Murder Scene, fantastic color as well. This maize yellow, woof. It was a big complaint, wasn't it? The yellow was too orangey. This one is yellow. It's beautiful. Another brown we've added. Noble Skin. Now, actually, if I'm truthful, in the prototypes, I wasn't in love with the color. Guys, it's subjective. I just didn't love that color. In this pre-production, no, it's not pre-production. Is it pre-production sample? It's production sample. In this sample, I really like that color, and I really love the name change, and I think that'll fit really, really well as a skin tone, as well as other uses. It just looks, quite frankly, a color I could paint the hoods of these ghostlings, what are they called? Ghost gas, chain rasp, something, whatever they are. And then finally we had the algae green, which is just another additional sort of military green. Again, they all show highlights, they all show the recesses really, really well. One thing I did note, and this again, being fed back to Army Painter, that's part of the paint development team, you know, feedback, what do we find? But I applied these paints in the same way I applied Speedpaint 1, and I just smashed them on super fast. There was air bubbles in them. Speedpaint 1, I thought I'm going to ruin the paint job. They actually all popped, all disappeared, all was fine. In this one, there's a couple poking through, and when they pop, they leave a little bit of white. It's just not as clean a finish, and obviously, I mean, if we're honest, that's my painting technique, is going to take a little bit more time. It won't happen. But I fed it back to Army Painter anyway. They're going to look at it, check if it's me, or check if the paint can just be tweaked ever so slightly. But let us know in the comments, guys. Do you paint it as haphazardly as I do? Do you get air bubbles in it? Because it's probably a me problem more than a paint problem, but it's worth just checking, and that's what we're doing here. Anyway, guys, these colors are beautiful. Let us know any comments, any feedback in just below. You know, go and type us something. Let us know how you're feeling, what you're thinking. Let's go and test the reactivation issue. Whoa. Just before we're going to look at the reactivation, guys, I wanted to look at one more miniature. Now, we've been slapping colors on entire miniatures, and that's great for you guys seeing the color and the contrast. Fantastic use. But what you're not seeing is it used in angle, how it will truly look on a miniature. Some of those colors don't look good when you've got an entire miniature covered in them. The metallics are pushing it a little bit too far. They're going to always be used in small well, not always. A lot of the time they'll be used in small quantities on blades and that sort of thing. So I've gone and painted up this miniature. Guys, this is entirely all 10. I didn't use some of them. I've used all 10 of the production sample speed paints. I've used matte white, just a little bit of dry brushing on his body to bring that up to that ethereal look. And I've used a little bit of speed paint medium as well to thin down that purple to give it this look, as well as actually thin down ruddy fur to make one of the colors on here. Which color is it? If you can tell me what I watered down, what I thinned down with speed paint medium and used ruddy fur, which is that sort of leathery brown one, let me know in the comments below. But all 10 colors are here. You've got Murder Scene on that decapitated face at the bottom. You've got that Tyrian navy as his cloak. You've got the silver. Oh, guys, I should talk about the antique gold. Yes, you can blend these colors. That is 50% silver, 50% gold mixed together. You get that antique aged looking gold. You've got the yellow, the maize yellow on his flame, as well as that's been wet blended ish into the algae green. So there's still that opportunity to get some nice wet blending in. It stays wet for quite a long time. This miniature was an absolute blast to paint. It did not take long. It's well under an hour, probably around the 30 minutes mark. I'm very, very happy with it, how it came out. It's not far off how I've painted them in the past properly, using a classical paint, taking my time. I got a very quick job here, and I like how it went. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but this is a good example of how to use speed paints, in my opinion. But enough about that, let's reactivate the reactivation issue testing. I think the first thing we need to do is remind ourselves of the actual reactivation issue, and for that I'm going to demonstrate with Speedpaint 1.0 Blood Red. I've just slapped some on this little test miniature here, and we'll just see how easily this one reactivates. Different colors have got different issues. Red, yellow, they've got weak pigments, so these reactivate the most. Some of them I've never even seen the reactivation. In fact, to be honest, the red one's the only one that's ever caused me problems, because I was painting up a blood angel, made a mistake, and had to go over it in white several times, and it kept bleeding through. So just got a cotton bud, dipped it in some clean water, and we'll just lightly rub-a-dub-dub his head, just getting it nice and wet. And we'll just rub, I'm not even rubbing hard, and we'll start to see the issue. The paint sort of reactivates. It's really just instability in the compound, isn't it? And it just turns it back on. That's what's going to happen with water-based paint, and it's very, very noticeable with speed paint because of the sort of formula that gives it the speed paint effect, that gives it that smoothness, that gets rid of the tide marks. It's the resin just letting this happen. So this is a problem people experience, and with the new speed paints, the reactivation is gone, or all but gone, and I think that's what we should look at next. I was actually genuinely worried about ruining my sweet looking paint jobs. I reckon if I just go over and add some more colours to this, I've actually painted up a load of ghosties, but I realised I could just rim the base. Go and get involved in this bit, and this will be enough to test it. So I'm going to just do it quite lightly, get it nice and wet. So we'll test this Tyrian Navy first. We'll just see how this one copes. This is not realistic, by the way, guys. Look how much water is on there. You're only really doing this if you're flooding the area and you've made a genuine mistake and you want to take that off. So basically, this isn't a very realistic test, but it's an extreme test just to see what sort of stability we've got in this new production ready formula. And I don't know if you can see that, guys, nothing is coming off at all on this Tyrian Navy. I'm now pressing quite hard just to prove a point. Might be able to get some off. And by lightly, by the way, I was pressing it firmly against it, to be honest. It wasn't that light, but now I'm really dragging and scraping. You could almost scratch the paint off at this level. So I'm going to go and do that with all the colours. So with Tyrian Blue, that's locked in. Tyrian Navy, isn't it? Let's so this one we'll save, because these two are probably the most liable. They're probably going to be the weakest. This purple might be quite weak. So let's go and get this brown, this noble skin, isn't it? I'll just get it wet again, and let's try out the brown. Now, the brown may well have yellows, may even have a little bit of red in it. So if there's any weakness, this is the sort of colour that might show it off. But let's just give it a test. Nothing, guys, nothing at all. We've got noble skin on lock. These two, absolutely 100% perfect. I'd be happy with them. Let's try the green. Again, this may well have some yellow in, so we might see a little bit of reactivation. But oh, are we seeing some? So maybe the slightest bit of discoloration in this cotton bud, but nothing noticeable on the miniature. And I was pressing pretty hard then. Let's just try. I want to try some more just to check if it's 100% locked. I'm pressing pretty hard. Maybe the slightest bit of reactivation. It's not damaging to the paint job, I would say. Yeah, that's definitely got a bit of green / yellow in it, hasn't it? So that is fairly tight, given that I think that would be a weak one. So let's put it on this side just to keep track. I'm going to switch out this cotton bud now. Let's try this ruddy fur. Again, might have some red in it. Nice and wet. Just want to keep reiterating what I'm doing here. Just make sure, while we might get it to reactivate, we've got to bear in mind that you ain't painting like this. Absolutely nothing, guys. That one's crystal clear. Next is going to be this purple. I think we'll see. If we're going to see anything, it's going to be on these colours in here. And then I don't know. I've never had metallic speed paints. Nobody has. They're brand new, aren't they? So we just don't know. I'm just going to get it even wetter, because I would just want this to be soaked. I want to give it time to soak in and rub off if it does. Wow. Nothing on the purple either. That is impressive. So we've got this one tight. Yellow next. Can you see the cotton bud? Its structural integrity is not as strong. That is genuinely how hard I'm rubbing this. This is no longer light strokes. I'm just going full ham Just okay, we're going to swap sides because I can barely even connect that anymore because it's so battered from the rubbing. So this one might be difficult to see on the cotton bud. We'll have to have a very, very good close look to see if we can see anything, just because the yellow is not going to be that bright, is it? It's not going to be that obvious to see compared to the white cotton bud. Well, I've rubbed this hard. I think he's satisfied. Let's have a look. Anything? I'd say no. What do you guys think? I'm just looking around the camera. No, I think that's clean. Yellow. Oof. So we've only got the green. Okay, murder scene next. And this look at this has got a thick amount of paint. Let's get it wet. And again, this has to have red in it. And that red's the liability. Oh, I think we're seeing some already. Again, I'm pressing hard. I don't know if the microphone won't pick this up, but it's squeaking how hard I'm actually pressing this. Okay, there we go. Wow, has that got any on? Yes. Can you see? No. It's slightly tinted pink, ever so slightly, and I don't think you can see anything. I maybe chipped the paint a little bit there. It might have been there before, to be honest, but looking under the camera again, I don't think that looks any different to any of the other paint. Nothing on my hand. Guys, that's not 100%. I'd say that is 99.98% on lock. I think we're good. Right. Wow. So only this green. Where was the green? I need to find the cotton bud again. That was it, wasn't it? So if we compare a clean one, if we compare a clean one to the green, you can see it's just slightly, ever so slightly greeny yellow. Let's get a new clean cotton bud, but let's try the metallics. Which one do you think will be the weakest, if any? This will be the easiest to see, I think, won't it, the silver, because it's going to go grey. So once again, give me a moment. Right, I'd say the silver does reactivate ever so slightly. That, or I'm just taking the paint off because it's looking like it's going back down to the primer here. So, but again, that's not, just compare it to the kind of red reaction we got from Speedpaint 1. Just bear that in mind as we go through. That is almost 100%, but I'm not gonna fully pass it. Is this one dry? Yep, let's try out the yellow next. Sorry, the gold next. Guys, there's nothing. I'm not even sure about the silver now. I feel like I was just chipping off the edge because I'm being a bit too rough. This is not what we're used to seeing, is it? I think the gold's sorted as well. And that just leaves this Talos bronze. No, it's copper, isn't it? Wow, guys, this is it. This is fantastic. Let's have a look. We barely got anything, didn't we? We got a bit of green and potentially that little bit of silver. Is that it? Yeah, that was it. So we got, and it's barely even noticeable. This is the silver end compared to a clean end, and you can see it just ever so slightly. And then, yeah, if we compare that green to white. So we've got 80%, the 10 colours here, we're talking about 80% of them looking like they no longer reactivate whatsoever. And then we've got 2 with a very slight tint. So you may have to be a little bit wary of these, but I think, you know what would be good? Let's slap on some white paint. So for this, let's just take a bit of Army Painter's Matte White, slap that on the palette. Let's get a load of water. To be honest, probably even want this almost 50-50 if I can. I want to make sure it stays wet when we apply it to the miniature and really has a chance to be moist enough for long enough to reactivate anything it can. So I think this is a more realistic test for testing out the activation. This is exactly the only way I've ever noticed it with Blood Angel and just paint. I was just trying to fix it up and it just kept seeping through coat after coat. It would bleed through the top. So yeah, I'll just go around. Let's apply a strip of this across the rim of these bases. And I'll just let it fully dry, and then we'll have a look at the results, and hopefully they'll be, they're going to be quite thin though, aren't they? We'll have a look. We'll have a look and see how we get on, but hopefully there's just some white with none of that colour poking through, other than maybe it being thin, but let's see in a minute. Well, let's have a look how the white got on. So we've got this Tyrian Navy. Now do bear in mind that was a very thin coat of white, so we are probably going to see a little bit of the colour through, but it's really about whether it's just being transparent and letting it through, or whether it's bled and sort of reactivated. And that to me looks more or less like it's just a thin white paint on top of this, so that's looking good. Let's look at the green, because we're worried about the green. Look, here you can see the difference. Hopefully, I hope the camera captures this well. This isn't transparent white. You can see the greens pulled through. This white's a kind of mix of that colour now. It's really pulled a little bit through. It is not, oh, I actually painted the blood red. It is not the reactivation of the old world. Look at the white on the red compared to the white on the green. You can barely even see, it just looks like a pinked up a little strip across this miniature, doesn't it? So this is Speedpaint 1.0 and this is the Speedpaint 2. Yeah, the green slightly reactivates. The silver was another one, wasn't it, in the little test we did before? Let's have a look. You know what? I can't tell. That to me just looks like the paint is very, very thin and it's shining through. So the green's looking like the only one this really affected in actual reality of trying to paint over the top of this, which is what we actually care about, the reactivation. Gold's good to go. Purple, possibly slightly, because this should have been dark purple here. You can see the rest of it's all dark purple. So I think we've got a little bit of bleed there, a little bit on the purple, very minuscule. Yellow, that's, yeah, ever so slightly. It's probably hard to see on camera. You're going to have to take my word for it. That has got a very small amount of bleed. Second coat or a thicker coat would probably cover that up. Let's have a look at the brown. Potentially. It's kind of hard to see. No, that one's borderline. Let me know in the comments if you can tell, but that looks to me like it's just very thin white paint and we can slightly see through it. The murder scene, yes, this has got a slight pink hue to it. Very, very slight again. You can see it's white, a second coat on top. Probably going to fix that right up. So we're talking about two thin coats is going to be covering this up. This actually looks like it's got a slight tint to it as well, but again, there might be seeing through. Not 100% sure on that one. And then the copper. Keep thinking this is a different color because it doesn't look like copper I'm used to seeing. Yeah, that looks good too. So the realistic tests showing once again mostly the reactivation has gone. Now I just wanted to show you one other thing. I actually did another small experiment and I noticed that I put this paint on way too thick and it really didn't dry in time. These have had a couple of hours drying and they're thin like you would actually be painting, and the reactivation's more or less gone. These were huge thick amounts that just would not dry, so I've accidentally left them on the radiator for multiple days. So these have had a couple of days to dry and it's telling, isn't it? This is quite good. Very extreme. Don't paint your miniatures submerged in water, but you can see I have submerged them in water. This is deep. This is as deep as I can get the palette, just poured directly on top of all of the speed paints. So this is the blood red from the original speed paints, and you can just see it just completely turned the water red, and that was basically just pouring on it. I've not agitated these. I'm not trying to mix it up any harder than I have to. They've had a little touch just to make sure. I should also mention that the new speed paints are all sort of solid, floating on top. That's the resin setting. These are really curing. They go hard, and that's why they don't reactivate anymore. They get this solid protective layer, whereas the other ones stayed kind of goopy and could reactivate. So you can see this is the green, so this is algae green, very slight tint to the color. This is actually the navy that I couldn't get to reactivate, and you can see it has. I've prodded it and you can see it splurts a little bit more out. This was noble skin, nothing. That's clear water. I cannot remember which order they were all in, and realistically, does it even matter? You can see the maize yellow, slight reactivating, slight tint. This is the purple, and you can see that I was about to say there's a lot of reactivation, but it's not, is it? It's a slight amount of reactivation. This was a lot of reactivation. This, they've got it down. This is minimal now. This is murder scene, slightly colour. You can see like this is clear, and this has got a slight hue to it, very, very slight. And then the three metallics are looking, this is picked up. These wouldn't pick up before. They were solid to the palette and they wouldn't come up. Now the gold's come up a little bit. Red's coming out of that actually. This is just stuck down. This is the bronze, copper, and I can't get any out because it's formed that solid surface. And this is the silver, which we saw if I rub hard enough, you get a little bit, but nothing here. But if it pops up, and do bear in mind, this gold may well have been wet underneath. That's what I'm talking about. I just could not get this to dry, which was why it was a bad experiment. But quite interesting to see it like this, and you can see old paint versus new paint, very, very different, isn't it? It's a different story. But I think this is very workable with now, isn't it? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me just cut myself off there. I talked long and hard enough about the reactivation issue now, but you got to bear in mind, guys, we do work for the paint development team, as well as I myself. If you watch the channel, I don't care much for the reactivation issue. It's not a problem for me. It's, well, maybe once it was a problem. It annoyed me a little bit. But other than that, in a year, 2 years of painting, I don't care, guys. Like, it's barely affecting me. So I think it's important that we try and show you as much as we can. albeit they were fairly extreme examples. They're basically not going to happen in real life unless you paint underwater. The one painting the white over the top is probably the most beneficial to you guys. So what's most important is we're getting a new speed paint range, tons more colours, new formula. Reactivation is basically gone. I wouldn't say it's 100% gone. Guys, judge for yourself. I've hopefully shown you enough that you can make up your own mind, but I'd say it's pretty much gone. Loads of new colours, including some metallic colours, probably more to come on that. You got the balls in the paint, which is always nice, a bit more of a premium feel, as well as making it that a little bit easier to shake up. Formula is a new formula. The flow, the paint feels like speed paints. The tide marks are pretty much not there. All the things you expect from speed paints. A little bit of compromise, I guess, with the formula, and that's why there's a little bit of reactivation, because we want speed paints, right? We don't want all the, if we wanted something else, we'd just buy one of the other one coat paints, but speed paints got that little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of difference, haven't they? Another thing just to note is when I was smashing on the paint really haphazardly, the air bubbles, something to pay attention to. If you paint like that, and I don't think many people do, because most people complain about how fast and how much paint I just smash on the miniature and get bubbles everywhere. People have commented that in the past. I know it's not good. I'm not pretending it is. I'm just trying to be quick. I think it was only actually 2 of these paints that just popped the bubbles and left a little bit of white underneath when the bubble popped. It's basically popping the paint away, isn't it? So it just leaves it white underneath. So that, I mean, fed it back to Army Painter, they'll be looking at it just in case it is something off with the formula, but ultimately just paint normally. Just don't paint like me. It will not be difficult, guys. Any questions, just let us know in the comments below. We'll be happy to answer if we can, or relay it to Army Painter. And what do you think about the reactivation? Is that enough? A lot of people don't care anyway, but those that do, is this now the level that we can cope with? I think most of the time you just paint thin layers on top just to highlight, right? Do you want it to bleed through a teeny bit anyway? Maybe? Guys, I'm super interested in what you had to say. Let us know. Thank you all ever so much for watching, and see you again soon. My laptop was in the way when I pushed the burbs. How frustrating. I thought I did that perfectly.